just let you walk away, just let you leave without a trace. When I stand here taking every breath with you, ooh, you're the only one who really knew me at all. How can you just walk away from me when all I can do is watch you leave? 'Cause we've shared the laughter and the pain, and even shared the tears. You're the only one who really knew me at all. So take a look at me now. There's just an empty space. There's nothing left here to remind me, just the memory of your face. Oh, take a look at me now. There's just an empty space, and you coming back to me is against the odds, and that's what I've got to face.
Welcome to episode 3 of Commanders Forever.
Before we get started, we need to mention that one of our favorite, let's just say the most favorite among equally favorite nephews' birthday was on September 15th. You know who you are, buddy. Happy birthday. Hopefully that Monday night game was a nice present for ya.
Yeah, also since your team is in the AFC North, and you must be happy that my team won and the team that you hate, that one of your division rivals, lost. Anyways, so let's get started. What is today's topic?
Well, first, let's just talk about this remarkable week. Let's just talk about your feelings. How did you feel during the game and the next morning? This was sort of the first big win of your Commanders fanness.
Well, I mean, literally, that was like the best game. So, I want to just like talk about some of the highlights. So, like, first of all, like, I want to just take a second and talk about Jaden Daniels' stats. So, Jaden Daniels, right? So he this has been everyone knows this by now, that he's had a really, really high completion rate, 91 or 93 completion. So yeah, 91.3 was his completion against Cincinnati, 79 against New York, and 70 against Tampa Bay, which shows he's improving since he went from 70, 79 to 90.
Improving. That's the big theme of today's podcast.
Yep. And his overall completion rate for this season is 80.3, and his quarterback rating is 66.7. Is that a good quarterback rating?
No, QBR of 66.7 is not a good quarterback rating.
Really? Is not?
Yeah, I don't know where that comes from.
Okay. Well, what is Patrick Mahomes' QB rating?
It depends on the game. There's not like an overall one, is there?
I think there is. It's 48.0 for this season. So, I mean, Jaden Daniels is better than that, but his playoff passer rating is like 105. It's all these awesome numbers for everything else. But right now, Jaden Daniels is better than him. And 664 passing yards. And how many touchdowns in the air?
Let's move on to the next topic. I'm not quite sure what you're trying to say here, baby. That he's improving? Is he improving?
Yep. I mean, look at this. So, against Tampa Bay, 17 completions. Against New York, 23. And against the Bengals, 21. And though from the New York game to Cincinnati, he wasn't better because he had 23 against New York and 21 against the Bengals. That's still pretty good that he went from 17 to 23. And he did get his first passing touchdowns um against Cincinnati, but against New York he got sacked 5 times.
Since we're on the topic of improving, let's discuss for a few minutes here Cliff Kingsbury.
Yeah, but before that, I just want to say against Cincinnati, his quarterback rating was 92.9, and against New York and Tampa Bay, it was 43.5 and 49.4. He increased by 50 points in quarterback rating on Monday night, so that was just. I mean, we already can tell by just the game itself. He scored 38 points. It just shows how great he was. But anyway, so
So let's talk about Cliffy. So Cliffy, before he came to Washington, D.C., had a reputation, right? His reputation was he's a good first half of the season coach, and then the rest of the league basically figures out what he's trying to do and quickly figured out a way to defend against his offenses, and his teams would basically fall apart in the second half. And this was a pattern with Mr. Kingsbury year after year after year. So I would say one of the biggest fears we have with Cliffy is that going to happen to us?
well, so Cliff Kingsbury, he actually so he basically some people so if you look at some plays he did, it's kind of similar to what he would do in Arizona. Like he would do no huddles, and in the beginning of the Bengals game we noticed that most of the time football games they have so many ads, so many this, so many that, but like literally after like less than half an hour the first quarter was over, and like typically it's like at least 45 minutes each quarter. So that game was pretty short. Since I didn't stay up, what time did the game actually end?
It ended around 11 o'clock. So what you're really saying is that one of the features of Cliff Kingsbury's offense is he really, really likes to do no huddle, which speeds the game up.
Yeah, but I also want to talk about Jaden Daniels' patience. He's great. He has great eyesight, great everything. Everything's great about him. But one play, against the Giants, basically remember there was one play where Joe Burrow fell for the bait. He threw it to Mike Gesicki, but then Jeremy Chin was coming in because he didn't realize that Jeremy Chin was a safety who was going to come and sneak up on him. So it was incompletion on third down, and I think they missed the field goal after that. But basically, the New York Giants kind of tried to do that to us last week. So Jaden Daniels didn't fall for that. But De'Ami Brown would have been open a second later, and the offensive line was good enough to definitely give him another second, but he ended up scrambling for I'm not sure how many yards. But then, if you take a look, same exact mistake as he did. He didn't scramble, even though the offensive line had good protection. Because Zach Ertz was running on a similar route, and the coverage was too good. So McCaffrey for like a lot of yards. I think 11.
So you're saying that that's an example of how Jaden Daniels improved his play, probably through good coaching from Cliff Kingsbury. But how is Cliff Kingsbury going to improve?
Well, Cliff Kingsbury is going to improve um in many ways because um Cliff Kingsbury he like he spent a year in USC under a good coach who made Jalen Hurts, Caleb Williams, and Baker Mayfield. So who coached them? So he learned them because he knew that he had problems. That's why he got fired from the Cardinals. So he knew he had to learn from that. So Cliff Kingsbury is pretty good.
What about the real problem? Your uncle has texted several times to never trust a man in a straw hat, and Cliff Kingsbury has been known multiple times to wear straw hats at practice. What are your thoughts on that?
Um, he he did have many plays. Like who would have thought that Trent Scott would have been the first ever career touchdown Jaden Daniels did? But another risky play that most quarterbacks wouldn't be able to do was the Terry McLaurin touchdown. That was like there's a 10% chance that was going to happen because there was like a super blitz, or like cover zero blitz. Like literally like 100 people, like literally out of the 11 people, 7 of them were blitzing, and he still completed that pass. But Cliff Kingsbury has a record of going and doing vertical plays where he sends out receivers for like long deep passes when people are blitzing him really hard. So that surprises me, but it might seem to work if our offensive line can hold up for literally 2 seconds.
And if you have a quarterback that can deliver the ball in that situation, which is what we saw in spades on Monday night. Well, I think you answered the straw hat question by showing competence.
But you know what Cliff Kingsbury's record with the Cardinals was in all his years from 2019 to 2022 was 28, 37, and 1. So, and like you said, he has a good record in the beginning of the season. So that's why he got 28 wins, but like he also got 37 losses, which I'd assume is probably after week 8, which is probably the other 10 losses.
So Jaden showed improvement. Cliffy's shown improvement by changing the way that he calls games. Hopefully, he's on a team where he's under the sort of mentorship of a wiser coach, and he's surrounded himself with other assistant coaches. Did you know these many assistant coaches come from very many different multiple offensive systems? So like we basically have like a super team of people with diverse ideas. Often in football, like let's use the example of Ron Rivera, he basically packed his coaching staff with people who are cut from the same cloth, who think the same way he does. And as a result of that, you get a very boring, monotone offense. You don't have people in the group that can speak up and say, no, there's a better way to do this. And you often get that when you have a diverse group of coaches with significantly different education and coaching and background. And I think at the end of the day, that's the kind of stuff that's going to save Cliffy. All right, before we wrap up, I have 2 more questions for you. We've talked about Jaden's improvement. We've talked about Cliffy's improvement. Sakina, as a beautiful 12-year-old 7th grader in the universe, can you give me an example of ways that you've improved in things that maybe you weren't so good at, and then all of a sudden you become good at? Like, how do you?
Everything.
Give me an example.
I think piano because but that took me a long time, so I'm not like Jaden Daniels, like who learns in 1 year. But
So you're saying Jaden Daniels is a faster learner than you?
definitely, because if you look at all this improvement, like I showed you his stats, he improved a lot in the game. Like he like in the week 1 he was like having problems with getting deep accuracy to Terry McLaurin and getting all the ball. In week 2, he had red zone problems. He got down the field, but then they had red zone penalty problem. But then in week 3, they got barely any penalties. It's actual football. Jaden Daniels gets like 2 touchdown passes, like one on ground, 1 touchdown on the ground. But I want to also say this about Cliff Kingsbury. Back to Cliff Kingsbury. Cliff Kingsbury. So or back to the so remember how we talked about how the game was moving very quickly because of the no huddle snaps, but Cliff Kingsbury does this in the majority of his snaps, but there's so many pros to it because it doesn't let them the defense substitute players that as often, doesn't let them get their plays like really sophisticated. But the cons to this,
Quick huddle?
Yeah, the cons to quick huddle is we don't have as many, like, we can't have as deep plays that are more complicated, sophisticated. But since Jaden Daniels is a very independent quarterback who likes to audible out of plays and do like make his own stuff, this is good in this situation. But another con is that it doesn't let receivers move around from left side to right side. Like in the first few weeks, he had an average of 76. Terry McLaurin's average 76% of the time he was on the left side, but on week 3 he improved and he was on 61% of the time he was on the left side, which is.
So you're saying he went from being just very predictable in terms of his movements to suddenly becoming unpredictable in week 3.
Yeah. So not only is Jaden Daniels a quick learner, Cliff Kingsbury is, and most of this Commanders team is.
You know who else is a quick learner? Sakina. Let's go through the process of learning. I think piano is a really good example of this, and there's some parallels here with football. What's the hardest musical piece that you've had to play so far that you've had to learn? What would you say that is?
Nocturne.
And so, can you walk me through sort of the mentality that it takes to learn something that complicated? Like, how do you go from one level to the next level to the next level to actually mastering the piece? Like, what are the elements of making that happen?
One word.
Practice?
Yeah.
Are you sure that word isn't daddy?
Definitely not.
All right, last thing before we go. Quick predictions before we go. So, what the heck do you think is going to happen this Sunday in Arizona?
Okay, I'm gonna just tell you. I'm gonna give you a quick game recap. Okay, so first quarter one, Jaden Daniels. He's gonna we're gonna start with the ball, or Arizona is. But let's say we start with the ball in this situation. Jaden Daniels, runs the ball. Brian Robinson gets stuffed on the first play. Brian Robinson has to run again on 2nd and 10. Then he gets like a gain of 4. It's 3rd and 6. And then Jaden Daniels darts some pass to like Luke McCaffrey or something. And then we are down to midfield. And then Jaden Daniels starts heating up in the passing game. And then we get a first down. But then we're going to get in another 3rd down situation. But then Jaden Daniels is going to come out and scramble for the first down. And we're going to just get the touchdown. But then, and then our defense is going to give up a touchdown to Cardinals. So by the end of the first quarter, it's going to be 7-7, right? So then second quarter, we come in. Jaden Daniels scores 2 touchdowns in this quarter because our defense gets a stop, and then Kyler Murray gets 1 touchdown. So now it's 21-14. Then we score a field goal in the third quarter after Kyler Murray scores another touchdown. So it's 21-24 now. Then we come back at the fourth quarter. We come back. Jaden Daniels comes on a game-winning drive. There's a minute left. Kyler Murray's driving down the field. Then our defense. They're so close to getting a touchdown, but then the defense gets a quick stop and they get a field goal and we win the game by 4 points. So I'm saying I'm going for 28-25 or something.
So remember, I have 25 years of PTSD shaping my predictions. But I don't think they can win this Sunday. I think there's gonna be a letdown from all the energy from the big week 3 win. This is their second week on the road. It had to go far to the West Coast. So they're playing in a different time zone. Our big guy Eckler isn't there, so we won't have that advantage that he gives us on home field and the relief he gives to Brian Robinson. We're playing a coach who's really good. He was the Eagles' defensive coach, and he's a really good coach. I think it's going to be frustrating. It may be close. I mean, basically, to beat Cincinnati, right? We had to play a perfect game, almost no penalties, no turnovers, score on every drive. Don't know if that's sustainable.
Oh, let me take back my score. So actually, we also get an extra field goal. Let's add it. So, but the reason we get that extra field goal and when it could have been another touchdown and maybe we scored 35 points and instead we get maybe 31 to 24, 20 something, 27. Because one of our offensive linemen, like Cornelius Lucas or something, he goes offsides in the red zone, and then we have to kick a field goal because on 3rd and goal.
That's a pretty detailed hallucination of how the game is going to go. I guess we'll just have to wait till Sunday to find out. That is the funnest part of football, right? Every week it feels like a fun new thing. Anything is possible. And I think that's why this is the most exciting game that people watch. Thanks for listening. One more happy birthday to Ali Hussein.
And thank you for tuning in to Commanders Forever, Hussein Family Edition.
Turn around.